this mess because of one man, his disobedience. And so what does it go on to say? In the rest of that verse from Romans chapter 5, it's going to be in verse 17, 18, 19. It's all beautiful. And it says, now, similarly, because of one man's obedience, right? One man's disobedience, all were made sinners. One man's obedience, his obedience, all were made righteous. Not by any works that I need to do. I can't. This is why Paul said in Philippians, he said, forgetting the things of the past. Forgetting, what are you talking about, Paul? Well, just before that, in Philippians chapter 2, Paul's talking about the fact that, listen, man, I'm a Hebrew. I'm a Hebrew of Hebrews. Proud of his tribe. Born of the tribe of Benjamin. You know? A Hebrew of Hebrews. And then he, as far as the law, a Pharisee. See, because that was his way to attain righteousness. And then he goes on to say, but I count all that. That is a loss. Now it's all about Jesus, knowing Jesus. And that's what he says in Romans chapter 10. You know, it's all about that. You know, he starts out Romans chapter 10 where he says, my heart goes out for my people. You know, the nation of Israel. My heart goes out for them because they have a zealousness for righteousness. They do have a zeal for righteousness. And then he goes on to say, but they can never achieve the righteousness of God. For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness. Amen. To all who believe. Thank you, Jesus. So anyway, today, something was coming to my mind, and I have to believe the Holy Spirit put it there, because I was like, you know, Amber, I was looking for a bad night last night, right? Because I ate all kinds of junk yesterday. I had cheesecake, I had pumpkin pie, I had coconut cream pie, I had chocolate birthday cake, right? I had some Italian cookies, and then I had some falafel, and I had some chicken, and I had some eggplant. I just ate, and lasagna. I just ate. I'm eating. I don't eat like that anymore, but I ate. And so then when I got home, I said, being that I had a bad day, I'm going to continue it. So I had me some Doritos, you know, and I had some more ice cream. My wife, the worst thing she could have done was made Christmas cookies. She said, honey, do you want me to bring any? I said, no. I want them all. They're so good. Oh my gosh, they're so good. She made me snickerdoodles. Oh, they're so good. And they're chewy and so. And now she's going to make Christmas cookies. But so I ate them, and I poured some ice cream on them. And, you know, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go to bed. And peaceful night's sleep. You know, no congestion, no coughing. And, you know, and I'm like, Lord, what's going on? He said, well, you're starting to believe what you preach. Oh, okay. Okay. And so one of the things he brought to my mind today as we were worshiping, that's why I looked it up on my phone to make sure I got his correct name in case any of you want to look him up. I remember in the late 80s, maybe 88, 89, I was privileged to meet a man because of my position in a particular business. I was able to go backstage and actually meet with him. But the first introduction I had was when he came on stage. And this tall man, about 6'1", 6'2", came and walked out on the stage, and he had a big cowboy hat on. You know, you don't think anything of it, right? He walking on the stage until he started his story. His name is Morris E. Goodman, and he's known as the Miracle Man. The Miracle Man. And I'll tell you what, when I used to drive on the highways and I saw these big red balls. You ever see the big red balls as you're driving on the highway on the telephone wires? All right?
Those are the high tension wires.
Yeah. But I never knew what those balls were for. Now I know what the balls are for. I don't know what you know what they're for. I know what the balls are for. They're to warn low-flying planes that there's wires there, all right? And so he was flying in the plane, and he came across these wires, and they didn't have that ball there to signal wires. So his plane crashed, and his spinal cord became severed. Now, they did the best they could to put him back together, all right? But the story goes, they said he would be paralyzed for the rest of his life. And not only that, he would need a breathing machine apparatus to help him breathe. Now, he was a Christian. He was a Christian. I don't know if he was a believer like, by his stripes I'm healed. I don't remember at that time, but I do remember this part of the story. He used to think, because he couldn't speak at the time, because of his spinal cord, his cord, whatever, but he used to tell himself in his mind that he's going to speak. He used to tell himself in his mind that he's going to speak. He's going to tell himself, he tells himself in his mind he's going to speak. And all of a sudden, you know, after a period of time, words started coming out of his mouth. And then once the words started coming out of his mouth, he started talking to different parts of his body. You know, he started talking to his arm, that his arm would work. And after a period of time, speaking to his arm started working. Now, here's the amazing thing. He could not breathe without the breathing apparatus. So now that he can speak somewhat, and now that he can have use of his hands somewhat, he said, I am going to breathe without this breathing apparatus. And what he would do is he would grab the apparatus and he would take it away, and he would go as long as he could without it, telling himself, I'm breathing without it. And then he would put it back on. Then he would take it off and command himself to breathe. He would command his lungs to work. And he would put it back on. Eventually, make a long story short, he got to the point where he didn't need it anymore. And he had trained himself to breathe all over again without any, I still don't know how much of his spinal cord was still, you know, not intact. And then the same thing with walking. And basically, he would just keep speaking and keep commanding his body to do what he wanted it to do until the day came where he defied all odds. He defied the doctors. He defied the prognosis, diagnosis, whatever, the predictions, and he walked out of the hospital. And he became a motivational speaker. He was known as the Miracle Man. It was amazing. Now, I've heard other stories like that. And I've also heard that apart from Jesus, apart from Christianity, apart from, you know, the miraculous, I've heard that our body can do amazing things, that our body can recover. And that there's waves and there's, I don't know all that, you know, but you can act, your brain has the capacity to bring healing to your body. You have the capacity, you know, your brain cells, right? New brain cells, how many thousands every day? You know, every week, every year. I heard that your whole body has the capacity, has the power to recreate every cell within it in a 7-year period. You've heard that? Yeah. You were in the medical field. Okay. Yeah. All right. And you know, you're all connected with positive words and positive speaking. But you know what? Medical professions really forgot what the Bible says. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Life is in the power of the tongue. And as a man thinketh, so is he. See, we learned that from the Bible. The medical profession found out about that, right? But there's many people I know, you know, or I've known about. I remember a movie I just watched. Holy Spirit had me watch it. I didn't know who this guy was. His name was Louis something. I forget what his name was. He was in World War II, and he was a prisoner of war in Japan. And he wasn't a Christian, but they tried to, but he wouldn't bow. He wouldn't give in. He wouldn't concede, okay? And they tried to break him. They put him in solitary consignment. They beat him. They let him go without food. And I mean, they beat him to the point where everybody was just pleading with him, Louis, please, just do what they say. But he wouldn't. He wouldn't. In his mind, he said, I won't. I'm not going to. I can handle anything they give me, anything that they throw my way. I think it was Unbroken. Unbroken? It's a great movie. A great movie. True story. Unbroken. And he wasn't a Christian at the time, but he said, God, you get me through this, I'll serve you. I'll serve you. But, you know, he got through it through his own mental believing, because his brother trained him. His brother raised him. Louis, you can do whatever you decide you can do. You're just as good as anybody else. Louis, you're a champion. Louis, you're a winner. Louis, you know, if you can believe it, you can achieve. You know, his brother raised him to believe that way. And he was an Olympic athlete until that took place. And he became a prisoner of war. Now, Japan knew that he was in the Olympics and he was an Olympic athlete, so they used to test him. They put him in solitary. They make him go without food for long periods of time. He was so weak and whatnot. And they say, hey, you're going to race against our champion. And if you win, we'll let you go free. But if not, we're going to beat you. And you know what? He would run. Of course, he couldn't win because of his weakened state. But he never gave up. He never gave up. One day they had him carry like a big log above his head. And the army had guns on him, and the commander said, if he lowers his arms, kill him. You got to watch the movie. It's amazing. And then it went on to say but he didn't. He didn't. Whole day and whole night. The power. Finally, they came and they took it from him, you know? But it's a good story because his life, you know, turns into a mess when he comes back to the United States. He starts drinking, you know, he gets married, it ruins his marriage, it's ruining his marriage. But then he goes to a Billy Graham crusade and he gets saved and he became an awesome evangelist. But it's a great story. So you're hearing these things. And then me and my son Brandon, I don't know if Brandon remembers this. He used to watch them. He turned me on to them. We used to watch the special forces in the world and how they train and what they get their bodies to do. It's amazing that we have these capabilities. This is how God created us. So, I mean, this is apart from the miraculous. This is apart from the miraculous. Now, when you enter into the miraculous, come on, what can be achieved? Now, I know that. Now, I step into the miraculous, and I know by his stripes I'm healed. And I know that he became a curse on the cross, because cursed is any man, right, that hangs on a tree, to redeem me from the law of sin and of death, to redeem me from that law. I know that. I know as he is, so am I in this world. But, you know, there's times I'm speaking to my body, and my body's not listening. You ever speak to your body and it's not listening? So I'm like, all right, why isn't my body listening? I have the authority. I have all the authority. God has given me the authority. Jesus has given me authority. Why is my body not listening? Why isn't my nasal passage listening? Why isn't my throat listening? Why aren't my knees listening? Why are my hips listening? Why aren't they listening? Holy Spirit, gently let me know why. No condemnation, no guilt, shame. He says, because your words have lost power. Your words have lost power. I'm like, what? Now, you all know this. You all know this. You all know the parent, right? Yep. Who's got an unruly child, or the child is not really behaving the way that they want that child to behave or the way they expect that child to behave, right? And you've heard that parent say, listen, I'm going to count to 3. And if I count to 3, and if you don't change your behavior, you're going to get it, all right? Back in the day, it used to be a spanking. Not now, whatever, I don't know. But you ever hear anything? You heard stuff like this, right? I used to watch certain family member of mine. Oh boy, you know I love you. Anyway, I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, and there'd be a long pause because it didn't look like that child was changing at all. 3, and then nothing. The kid didn't change. The kid kept doing what he was doing. You've seen it, haven't you? You've seen it. And he said, okay, I told you, I'm going to count to 3. This time I'm serious. I'm going to count to 3. This time I'm serious. I'm going to start counting. 1, 2, 3. Nothing. I used to I remember I used to have fun with this one family member. I said, count to 3 again. We're going to count to 3 again. So I'm being reminded of that. I don't know if I ever said that to my kids. If I get to 3, I don't know. I'd have to ask them in the privacy. I don't want to ask them. But anyway, but it's like, how many times have I told Lori, I said, honey, I'm fasting. I just feel like I should enter a fast, so I'm not going to eat today, right? Now, my body hears that. I spoke it. I'm just not going to eat today. Oh, okay. And then she leaves, and I'm like, I'm hungry. I got to eat. And I sneak into the kitchen, and she walks in, and she goes, I thought you were. No, I changed my mind. And it's like, how many times, do we say we're going to do something? I'm going to do this. And we know full well we're not going to do it. We have no intentions of doing it. Now, perhaps Pastor Lenny is the only one in this situation, okay? But there have been many times. It's like, and I've actually said, yes, I'm going to do it, knowing I ain't not going to do it. But you see, those are words. Those are words. Those are words. Now when it comes time for me using my words to speak to my knee or to speak to my hip, right? There's no authority in those words, Now when it comes time for me to cast out demons and devils, there's no authority in my words. They know it. They know I don't mean what I'm saying. So I determined it's not happening anymore. So if you ask Pastor Lenny something and he doesn't really want to do it or he's not going to do it, he's just not going to answer you. No, he's going to speak truth. Speak truth. Speak truth in love. Speak truth in love. And so I was looking at the story, the Christmas story. Now, there's two places I want to look at. I want to look at Luke, okay? Luke chapter 1. We're going to look at 2 stories. And in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God unto a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin espoused to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. And the virgin's name was Mary. And the angel came in unto her and said, Hail thou art highly favored of the Lord, and he is with thee. Blessed art thou among women. And when she saw him, she was troubled at his saying, and cast in her mind what manner of salutation this should be. And the angel said unto her, Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with God. Wow. And behold, listen to this. This is amazing. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb, and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Jesus. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest. And the Lord God shall give unto him the throne of his father David. And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end. Then said Mary unto the angel, How shall this be, seeing that I know not a man? And the angel answered and said unto her, The Holy Ghost shall come upon thee, and the power of the highest shall overshadow thee. Therefore also that holy thing which shall be born of thee shall be called the Son of God. And behold, thy cousin Elizabeth, she had also conceived a son in her old age. And this is the 6th month with her, who was called barren. For with God nothing shall be impossible. Here we go. Listen to what Mary says. This is what comes out of her mouth. And Mary said, behold, the handmaid of the Lord, be it unto me according to your word. And the angel departed. Now that's amazing right there. It didn't take place in her life until she spoke, be it unto me according to your word. Be it unto me according to your word. And then it took place. And then it took place. Now, she questioned it. I think that was a proper question, too, because she was espoused to a man. Okay, like, how is this going to happen? Because my mom did tell me about the birds and the bees when I was young. So is this supposed to take place through Job? How is this going to be? No, it's going to be from God above. Can you imagine that? And she said, be it unto me according to your words. And you see, there was no wavering, there was no doubting, there was no speaking. Are you sure you got the right person? I don't think you got the right person. I don't know that I'm really qualified. How could you tell me I'm highly favored? Don't you know what I just did? No, there was none of that talk. There was none of that speaking. The only speaking that was there, that was evident, was agreeing with God. Be it unto me according to your word. Period. And that's how we're supposed to walk in our lives, walk our lives out, right? In accordance with his word. When his word comes to us, speak it, believe it, that's it. Don't speak against it. Don't speak contrary to it. Right? Speak as if it's happened. Jesus said, when you stand praying, believe that you receive and you have. Okay? So now when you look at chapter 1, there were in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias of the course of Abia, and his wife was the daughter of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. And they were both righteous before God, walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord, blameless. And they had no children, because that Elizabeth was barren, and they both were now well stricken in years. They possibly might have been older than Abraham and Sarah. And it came to pass that while he was executing the priest's office before God in the order of his course, according to the custom of the priest's office, his lot was to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Lord. And the whole multitude of people were praying without at the time of incense. And at this time of prayer, an angel appeared unto him. Wow. Standing on the right side of the altar of incense. And when Zacharias saw him, he was troubled, and fear fell upon him. But the angel said to him, fear not, Zacharias, for your prayer is heard, and thy wife Elizabeth shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name John. Now listen to this, what the angel said to him. Your prayer has been heard. Your prayer has been heard. He's been praying for a son. He's been praying for a child. He's been praying for a son. Here comes the angels. Your prayer has been heard. This is a done deal. This day is upon you. It's happening. The appointed day has come. God's going to work this miracle in Elizabeth's life. He's heard your prayer, right? Fear not, Zacharias, for your prayer has been heard. And thy wife Elizabeth shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name John. Now, this had to take place. In order for Jesus to come, there had to be the forerunner. This had to take place. This was prophesied. This was spoken about in the prophets. This had to happen. This had to happen. You understand that? It had to take place. And thou shalt have joy and gladness, and many shall rejoice at his birth. For he shall be great in the sight of the Lord, and shall drink neither wine nor strong drink. And he shall be filled with the Holy Ghost, even from his mother's womb. And many of the children of Israel shall he turn to the Lord their God. And he shall go before him in the spirit and power of Elisha, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and is disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord. And Zacharias said unto the angel, whereby shall I know this? For I'm an old man, and my wife is well stricken in years. Now you see, that's a different kind of questioning. He's been praying for this, and now God is bringing him an answer, and now he's questioning, come on, how's this going to take place? I'm so old. My wife is so old. You know, we gave up on this a long time ago. That's what he's saying. Now look at what the angel said. Very, very powerful. And the angel answering said unto him, I am Gabriel that stands in the presence of God, and I am sent to speak to you. This is God's word. This is God's answer. Your prayers answered. And show you these things of glad tidings. Now look what the angel says. You have the power in your tongue. You know what, Zacharias? This doubt you have right now, this unbelief you have right now, you have the power in your tongue right now to stop this from happening. But we can't let that happen. John has to come. He's got to come before Jesus. He's the forerunner in the spirit of Elijah. This has to take place, Zacharias. So, in order for you not to mess this up, in order for you not to screw this up, in order for you not to stop, to make this not happen, by speaking negative, I'm making you dumb. You're dumb now. You can't speak another word. Imagine that? That's the power of words. Zacharias couldn't speak. He couldn't talk. He opened his mouth and nothing would come out. Nothing would come out. Nothing would come out. Until the day that John was born. John was born. And they came to bring him to be dedicated. And they said, what will the child's name be? And of course they said, well, Zacharias, just like his father. What did Zacharias do? You know what? If they would have let his name be Zacharias, he would have never been able to talk again. But as soon as he said, John, his mouth opened up and he was able to speak. So those two stories tell us the significance and the power behind our words. Not only to create, okay, but to bring healing, to bring healing, to bring restoration, to bring about what God has already revealed to us. Not to be our own worst enemies in thinking about it and speaking about why it can't happen, why it won't happen, why it's not going to happen, when will it happen. Look at what Mary said, or what the angel said to Mary, for with God, nothing shall be impossible. So, very simple message from this word, from this portion of scripture in the book of Luke, and that is, perhaps things haven't been proceeding in your life the way they're supposed to be proceeding because we have been sabotaging it. We have been sabotaging it with our words. We have been sabotaging it with things we speak, or by the way we speak. It all goes back to Jesus, all right? I've been emphasizing this a lot lately. As Jesus is, so am I in this world. As Jesus is, how would the Father relate to Jesus? Well, that's the only way the Father will relate to me. How should I relate to myself? Well, I should only relate to myself the way I would relate to Jesus. How do I relate to others? Well, the only way I would relate to others is the way the Father relates to others, and the Father only relates to others the way he relates to Jesus. So I'm only going to relate to others the way I would relate to Jesus. And the more that we allow the Holy Spirit to take us into that belief system, and that belief system becomes a part of our everyday living and walking and talking, I believe we are going to walk in the fullness of the life that Jesus has come, that he came to give, that he's already delivered, that's already been finished, that's already been stored up for our use in heaven. And so just use the words of Mary, use the words of Abraham, use this story right here to give you, what's the word? Encouragement to zip the lip, speak life.